to view the comments too? I can't see it when I'm doing Skype on my phone.
Hey everybody, Joshua the window cleaner here with Melissa again. Here we are on the live show. And so that was a really good show. I really enjoyed watching it. We kind of just shot the show and then we both got to watch it for the first time probably just then. And so we really didn't get to really see how it ends, but we know that Tyler won. So congratulations, Tyler. That'll be a really good add-on to your Sorbo collection that you've already won on here. It seems like you always get attracted to winning the Sorbo tool. So, and we have the comments pulled up on here. Melissa, can you see the comments? I know you were saying that you could not see the comments earlier,
Now I
but
can.
you can?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them to Melissa. She is my secretary. If you're wondering who she is my secretary to my business. I own Positive Enterprises here in Southern California. So it looks like E-Man and Sean and Ronnie is on here. So hey, Ronnie. Hey, Sean. And hey, E-Man. I do have a couple of questions for Melissa personally that I'm wondering while we wait on questions. Hopefully we'll be very brief on this show. It won't be as long as the last show. But yeah, so what was it like when you first started and how was training, Melissa?
Well, when I first started working for you, it was during the winter time. And at that time, it was relatively slow. Um, for me, when I was starting to, take over the phones and get used to doing that, we were probably booking out maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks. I remember there was one time we were only booked out like a week and a half, and that was kind of slow for us. But as far as training, it was unconventional to say the least. Um, Josh has a way of training me, and which I appreciate. It definitely is beneficial to train how he did, because he would be in the same room with me and he would pretend that he was a customer and he would say ring ring like he was calling in. And so every time he had a different customer, it was a different situation. He always gave me, difficult customers, difficult questions, things that I hadn't known yet, obviously, but it paid off, because by giving me the harder questions and allowing me to learn a response that he would recommend me using, it helped me prepare for those types of situations and how to handle them. And if I got the easy customers, then it was cake.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to do. I tried to be the hard customers sometimes, but also I tried to be the easy customers too. That way I wasn't being
Yeah.
so hard on her. But yeah, to me, that's just the best way to get that experience is just to think of things that customers have asked me that I'm like, what the heck? Like, I got to figure this out right there in spur of a moment. And a lot of it comes with just experience. And so for the first, I don't even know, it was like first 4 to 6 weeks or something. It was like steady. I was just in a room with Melissa, an hour at a time, and we would say like, all right, we're going to do 15 calls today, and then I would act like 15 different customers, and some of them were easy and some of them were hard. She never knew what she was going to get, but
No, and it was completely intimidating at some point too, because I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, because I just thought, okay, well, he's going to give me a customer. I know I'm not going to know how to answer the question, and I'm going to look stupid answering because I didn't know how to answer it. But we had a few rounds to go, and I got more comfortable. I built my confidence up, and that helps a lot too, because when you actually know what you're talking about, that portrays, and it emulates through the phone call that you have. That way your customer knows that you're confident in the way that you're presenting the business and the services that you provide too.
Yeah, and then knowing, feeling confident in the price too. I'm really glad that I have this YouTube channel, because you watch a lot of the videos and you're able to see what it looks like on the job site, because you can't really go to the job site. You don't get that kind of experience. But by watching these videos, you get to see what we encounter, what my thoughts are when we're out there, and what tools we're using and stuff like that. And so it really goes to show what all goes into it, and it makes you a lot more confident on our price too, because you're like, holy moly, like you should be charging more, really and truly, for all that you have to pay for. And when you first started though, it's like, wow, you're charging a lot, like you're making a lot of money, and it's like, I wish I was making that kind of money, but it don't work like that. You got to pour it right back into it. You got to get new uniforms, you got to hire, you got to do all kinds of different things. So I'm definitely glad that I trained you the way I did it, and it definitely worked, because when you were able to take over on the phones, you were like, it's not near as hard as you made it seem, and that's the way you really want it. When you're going through training, and then you go out there and you're actually having to do it, you want to feel like, you know what, this is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. But every now and then you get those
Absolutely.
weird customers, that you got to deal with, and you'll be able to handle them a lot better because of those experiences. Because sometimes I wanted to get you into a hard place and see how you respond, and normally it was like, okay, well, I'll have to get right back to you, because I don't know this answer. I'll have to call the boss real quick, and just double check with this. I think that we could probably do this, but I'm not real sure. And sometimes that might not even be a good option. Sometimes it might be, hey, I don't know that answer, let me get right back to you. And you can't be
Yeah, and that's
afraid
an
to say that.
ongoing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you just called what, like maybe a month and a half ago, and randomly I'll pick up the phone and Josh calls, and I'm like, "Hey, Josh," and he's like, "Ring, ring." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, again." But it's beneficial, because then you can see where we need to improve. It's not, we're nothing's set in stone. And so when you constantly try to improve and see where you're working at, then you can figure out where you need to work on stuff, how we can work things differently. And so it's always going to be a learning experience.
Yep. And sometimes I like to see where you're at too, because you've been doing this for so long. You're answering all the phone calls. You're handling with all the customers and stuff. And so, every now and then it's good for me to be like, you know what, I need to act like a customer real quick, and just see how it goes, and see if there's anything that, we can improve, or maybe something we didn't think of. Because it always comes to that. It's always like, you know what, we both didn't even think about that, but we ran into this because I was trying, thinking like a hard customer, and she was being a good secretary. So then we run into these issues, and you're like, you know what, I didn't think about that. What if you do run into this issue, and so sometimes it's really cool to do that. And so sometimes just calling just to say ring ring, which I don't do it very often, but I will do it just to check in. And sometimes, I don't always stand over Robert and watch him work and just be like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. A lot of times I just let him do his thing. But there are days where I'll be like, you know what, Robert, I'm going to stand right next to you all day today, buddy. And if I see anything that you're doing wrong, I think you can speed up and you can do it quicker and get the same outcome, that I'm going to show you that. But I'm not always going to stand over and just point the finger, and like, nobody wants that. Like, you got to let them experience it. And sometimes they're going to make mistakes and have to go back out on a Saturday and clean tracks out. But that's just how it is, or sometimes they got to go back and get a tool that they left at a job. Sometimes you got to let them experience that. You can't always just hound them, about, because you learn too. You got to remember that you started out, you didn't know anything. That's the way I think. Like, there was a time where I didn't know, and I always try to think about where Robert's at now and where I was at whenever I'd been doing it for 2 years. And there's a lot of things I've learned, and I'm continuing to learn, that he's going to continue to learn, but he's a lot further along because of the things I've taught him and trained him the way I've trained him. So the next question I want to ask is, what did you do before working with me? And if y'all have any other questions for Melissa, please put them on the comments, because if we don't have any questions on here, we're going to get off here. shortly after we go through one more or two more questions. So go ahead, Melissa. What did you do before working with me?
I actually worked for, I don't know, probably like 3 corporate companies prior to working for Josh. And one of them being Monster Energy. And I was with Monster Energy, I want to say like a little over 7 years. And that culture in itself is something else, aside from other corporate companies. To compare them would be exactly opposite because it's just so unconventional working there. But it had a good vibe to it, but when you when I started working for Josh, it was more like a tight knit kind of group. It wasn't um, like you just weren't a pawn, essentially. And I felt the care and the attention from my boss that actually wanted to put in time to try and train me, try and spend time with me one on one, to make sure that I was, doing things that needed to be done to help not only his business grow, but for me to grow as a person in this position as well. It was a completely different position than I am normally used to. I was in the accounting department for Monster Energy, and now, being in this position, it's a completely different type of situation. But I feel like comparing the two companies, I feel like it's more of a tight knit kind of culture that we have, and I think that you don't really get that when you're working in a corporate company.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you kind of answered my next question was how's it different going from corporate to small business? And yeah, so I could see where it would be a lot different because I've kind of worked on a more corporate end, and I've worked for mom and pop shops too, and I kind of felt the same way. When you're in a mom and pop shop, you kind of almost feel like it's family. It's like
Yep.
you're in there with them, you're in the trenches with them, and and I really appreciate you really being in the trenches with me. And it's been hard at times, especially when you first started. Like we were going into the winter time, and I committed to you to pay you what you were asking for, and I was definitely committed to that, and it was tough at times, and I was freaking out when we were only a week out, and it always ended up working out. It always ended up working
Yeah.
out, and then the summer came around, and we're like, woo! And then you got to experience that, so you got to experience the slow months where you're like, man, he's not super busy. They're kind of like a week out, and I kept telling you, just wait, just wait, just wait. It's gonna get
Yeah.
busy. And then I remember right when it started getting busy, you were like, Josh, I think I know what you mean. Like that was very chaotic. The phones have not stopped ringing. And I was like, I know it's how it works. And so, and you've adjusted. And I think that's super important too, is that you, like you said, you grow as a person into that position, because you have worked at so many different places. And, this is totally different than anything else that you've ever done. But you have so much experience from these places that you've worked that it just fits perfectly for what you do now. And I'm really glad to see that too in you, that you're happy, because I try to always ask you, like, is there anything I can do, like, are you good, like, just make sure that I'm helping enough. And if I'm failing you, then I tell you, like, hey, look, I'm sorry, like I failed you on this. And I know you always say that I didn't fail you, but I sometimes do feel like I failed you. But just to be honest with your employee, and not always, try to be like I'm Mr. Head Honcho and I do everything right, because I do not do everything right. I make a lot of mistakes, and we learn from each other and we check each other, and that's just part of being a team. And that's why it's like she said, it's the culture. That's what I try to tell people. It's a whole culture here. You're either going to make it or you're not. You're going to fit into this, and it's just going to be where you're supposed to be at this time in your life, or it's not. It's just how
Yeah.
I feel about it, and it could be a great improvement on your life. And that's what we're hoping for. And same, if Melissa was to leave or Robert was to leave my company, I would want them to say, Josh, I benefited from your company. I grew as a person. like so on and so forth. And that led me to this other career that I'm going to go towards. And I would never be mad at somebody for wanting to do better in their life or anything. Of course, I'd want them to stay, and I would hope that they'd give me an opportunity to counter offer. But at the same time, it's like, what, if this what makes you happy and you're going to be more happy than here, then I'm not going to stop that, because there'll be other people come up, or I'll have to step in, and that's just part of being a business owner. So being a business owner, you got to be prepared for that too. So you got to be prepared to step in, which is why I have Melissa, doing things now. Like, she writes everything she does down. We have a process for everything. I'm even trying to look into getting her an assistant in the future where it helps her, and she can kind of line them out. That way, if she wants to take a vacation, it's not a huge burden on me or on the company or anything like that. We want you to be able to grow here, but stay as long as you want. But if you want to go somewhere else, like, we don't, want you to feel like you're obligated to, like, you're like balled and chained here or anywhere. We want you to be like, what, I love my job. I'm just going to hang here. Like, this is a good place to work. And normally, if I see the need in a raise or something like that, a lot of times nobody has to ask. I just try to give it to you. If I can afford it, I'm going to put it out there. If we're going up on our prices, I can afford it, we'll go up. Because I just did raise this for everybody because it was time. We went up on our prices. We seen that we were making a little bit more profit, and I wanted to make sure that I give my employees that, because giving them a bonus in California sometimes can hurt them, because then they have to pay taxes on that later. And so bonuses is not always sometimes the way to go. If you can give them a little bit more per hour and then it not affect them so much, and they still make a little bit more on their check each week, sometimes that can be a better option. Now, we do have some questions in the comments. Can you see the questions here? There's actually a few. The first one I see is from E-Man, and then you got one from Sleep Talker.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Melissa, if you don't mind me asking, do you have an Asian background? I like to call myself a Germapino because I am half German, half Filipino.
A Germapino. That's pretty cool. Well, there you go, E-Man. E-Man is from Canada. So, E-Man, do you have Asian background? Is that what you're asking? And let's see, the next question. Do you do taxes or networking meetings?
I don't do taxes. We
have a tax guy.
That.
Yeah.
But as far as networking meetings, we are part of BNI. That would be a networking meeting. And so that's kind of what we participate in. We have, connections that we make through several different smaller companies that allow us to branch out and meet new people and make those connections. So we have that.
Yeah, we're in BNI. It benefits us. I kind of built a bunch of relationships in there, and then I kind of trained Melissa on how to join a BNI group, and then ended up placing her in my chapter for the time being, because when I was looking at all the numbers, I couldn't afford for me to be in there. It wasn't. It was more of a benefit for me to pull out and do jobs on Fridays than it was for me to be in the networking group. Not to say the networking group wasn't beneficial. It was great. It was bringing in a decent amount, enough to bring in one employee's salary at least. So, it's worth staying in there, but it's not enough to pay a salary that I'm trying to make. So I got to get out of there and figure out how to make more money so we can continue to grow. And that's what I ended up having to do. It was a really hard decision because I had some personal relationships in there that I really love those people in there. And I loved seeing them every week, and I still miss them, but I still talk to all of them, and she's still in there. So we're still all in communication, which is really good. But on Fridays, we make good money on Fridays, or we're able to take a day. We was able to take a day off today, which was fantastic. But we did 5 buildings, which we thought was going to take us 2 days. We did that in 1 day somehow. I guess we just put our head down and really worked. Like I don't know, it was weird. Like at around lunchtime, I was like, I don't know, we'll have to work late if we finish. But it was a little bit easier than we thought originally. But the price does not change. Like the price is dependent on the window. It doesn't depend on the job. So if we get lucky, well, we just got lucky because we parked in the right spot before everybody else parked. And then we were able to run our hose all the way around all 5 of these buildings. So we weren't having to move all over the place. We didn't have to set up a tank. We had the delivery pump, and we were able to do a lot with all the good equipment that we have. And so, we made good timing today, and we did it in one day, and that was great. And Robert was off today, and he's off all weekend, so I know he's happy. And I'm going to try to do my best not to bother him or call him about anything until Monday. So, but yes, we're in a BNI group. But
we're also part of Chambers.
Yeah, we are part of Chambers. We just don't network a lot in the Chambers. We used to network. I used to network a lot in the Chamber, but since COVID, I have not networked at all with the Chamber. But it's not been any particular reason why I haven't. We've just been busy, and I've had a lot going on in my life personally, and so I've just been trying to work out all the kinks so that I can get back to work really and truly. Let's see. That is. Good luck, Melissa. It sounds like you are a valuable asset. Take care, Joshua and Melissa. Good night, Ronnie. If you're leaving, peace out, man.
Good night, Ronnie.
Thank you for being on. Question from Melissa. Would you like to be trained for field work so you understand both sides of the company?
No.
She don't want to clean the windows, man. That's why she called me. She was my client before, so she didn't want to do the windows. And she sees what we do, and I've asked her. It's funny. I've asked her if she wanted to go out, but you can answer that freely, Melissa. I already know the answer, so go ahead.
I like being behind the scenes. Not so much of being outside and being in the heat. I don't like being in the heat, but or the rain. I don't want to be outside working. And then right now also, because I have a 1-year-old, I kind of have to, think about being there for him, watching him be able to, take those milestones and accomplish them. And I want to be present for that. And Josh allows me to work from home. And that's another thing that's, different from working from a corporate office, is because they expect you to go in and, sit at a desk. I was driving an hour and a half to commute one way. So I spent 3 hours of my day just driving. And then on top of that, working an 8-hour day. It was just too much. And I had to come to terms. I didn't want to do that with my life. And if we were to start a family, I couldn't do that. That would just be, it would be hard for me. But Josh allowed me to work from home, and I like working from home. And I like doing this kind of position. This is actually something that I've been wanting to take care of and do for a company for a really long time. And the position presented itself when I was 8 months pregnant. And I'm thankful that I came across, Josh's post about needing a secretary, because I was in such a rut because of COVID. And then, being pregnant during COVID, I wasn't, me and my husband weren't able to necessarily have our celebrations. We couldn't, hold gatherings or, anything like that to celebrate this new chapter in our life. So I kind of was glad this opportunity presented itself, because it's really a valuable thing in my life right now.
Well, that's really good to know, and I appreciate that. Like, that means a lot to know for me, because you mean a lot to me, and I really appreciate everything you do. And like Sierra does too. Like, Sierra's always like, because when I first hired you, because she didn't know you as well as I did. When I first hired you, she was like, she's really expensive. Like, are you sure you can afford that? And I was like, I'm not real sure I can afford it. I think I can, maybe. We're going to find out, so I kept saying, well, we're going to find out, but I'm willing to take that risk, and I knew I wasn't going to benefit right away. I already knew. I told you that. I was like, I don't expect you to just make me money right away. I'm going to pour into you as much as I can. And then just, you take the reins after that. And you have totally done that, and you've totally held your end. And I'm so glad to see that, like, it's helping you in your life and, pulling you out of that depression from COVID, because I could definitely see where that could, grab you and take a hold of you, and then, you having a good opportunity. I know you had to work at the office for a little bit and travel, but that ended up working itself out, and now you're working at home, and, you're able to spend time with Aaron, and it's so cool, and I'm glad that we were able to have his first birthday party. I went to that. That was super cool. I got him a little a little cleaning set, and he held that little squeegee forever, I swear.
He still does. We actually had to take it away from him because he was putting it in his mouth the wrong way and running into things. And now that he's walking,
Yeah.
it was kind of a safety hazard. But now that he's like gotten really good control of walking, I'm pretty sure we can introduce the squeegee again.
That's so funny. But yeah, that's really cool to know. So let's see what else we got. Let's see. I go to RBNI and 2 others every week. When I started my business, network. That's all I did. And all that networking I did when I started, I still have people calling because all those business cards I passed out thousands of business cards and met thousands of people. Especially before COVID, like there was a meeting or something like a chamber meeting or anything, I was trying to be there, like if I could. And now it's just a lot different. I don't have to do that as much because we have a lot of people calling and stuff. So it's a lot easier. So let's see what else. E-Man says, I have admin sales management background. Question is, what are the challenges transitioning to being an owner at Josh? Any background on those areas? Let's see. What are the challenges transitioning to being an owner? Oh man. Any background on those areas? My transition to being an owner from a worker, well, it was the hardest part for me was employees. Being able to communicate with employees, because when I first started, I was trying to be friends with employees. Like I tried to be their best friend. Like they were late to work. Oh, it's cool, man. Like whatever, like whatever, the most laid back boss you ever seen. And that was the worst thing I ever could have done because I had 4 spoiled brats at one point that I had to let them all go and completely start over. And it was rough. Like they were all using me and abusing me, and it was like I was working for them. And that part, you got to work for your employees, but there's got to be a fine line in there. And you got to be a boss, and you got to be able to know what you stand for, and you got to be confident. All of that, it's been pulled out of me through business coaching. I remember I reached out to Jim. I knew I couldn't afford it. The same thing. Like I always run into these situations where like, I know I can't afford this, but I got to do it, So I met Jim, and he's my business coach. And I told him, because he asked me, we said, what's your biggest goal? And I said, dude, I got to learn how to talk to employees. I done burned through 14 employees this year. And I've tried everything I know to do to communicate to them, and I cannot get them to do what I want them to do. I just can't. And then he kind of broke it down for me and helped me out a ton. It's really hard to explain, take forever to explain, really. But I would say look into a business coach. That'll help you pull that out of yourself, and you kind of realize who you are. And then, it's not always what's going on in your head. Sometimes that's just what's going on in your head. It's not always it's not who you actually are, and how everybody sees you, and, what you've worked yourself and built yourself, your character up to, your integrity up to, and so, that part is a little different. But that transition, man, I tell you what, it's psychological, and you have to embrace it. You have to be ready for people to let you down. You have to understand expectations. Having a high expectation for employees is a really bad idea. Have the lowest expectation. You also want to have standards, though. You have the low expectation, but you always want to have standards, because if you have standards and you explain all those standards before they're even hired, at least they showed up. You know what I mean? Because we've had people that don't show up and that quit before they even start. So, it's if they show up and want to work, hey, that more power to them. I'll give them some grace and cut them some slack, and most of the time I try to make it easy as possible for them. But at the end of the day, I'll let them know I'm the boss, and at the end of the day, what I say goes. And if you don't like that, you can leave. You can go work somewhere else. This is my business, and I'm going to do it the way I want to. So if you're being disrespectful or something like that, you can go home. You can think about it. I try to cut people slack a little bit, but we write people up and all that. So that's all through learning, man. That's all that transition. So that's the best way that I can really explain it. I always tried to be the best employee I possibly could when I was an employee, and I hope that I get employees that way. But I try to remember that I'm the boss, and I try to be the very best boss that I possibly can. And when I make mistakes, I want to point them out, and I tell my team to point them out when I make mistakes. Especially Robert. Robert gets to see my mistakes more than anybody because he comes behind me after I clean windows. I do my very best, but I'm not perfect by no means. And a lot of times Robert goes behind me. I go behind Robert. It's just how we work. Same thing with customers and stuff. Like I always tell Melissa, hey, go back and read what I read because it's a learning experience for you. If it's not something that because sometimes I'll be looking to see what she's saying, and sometimes I know she can't really answer this, and I'll wait for the text, and then she texts me and says, hey, like, how would you answer this? And then I'll go ahead and answer and be like, check it out, look how I'd answer it. So there's always learning opportunities in there for both people, because some situations I haven't ran into either, but yeah, I hope that answers your question, E-Man. See, one group specializes in community outreach events and philanthropy. All my groups have children, including one newborn. All right, Melissa, you're gonna take away on that one. I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, let me read it. Hold on.
Sleep Talker said it. The ZZ talk ZZ.
Oh, I see it. I don't think that's a question.
One group specializes in community outreach. I don't know what that means. I know it's not a question, but I don't know what that means.
It's just
peace out, Sean.
Oh, Sean left?
Yeah, Sean says late here on the East Coast. Till next week, y'all. Yeah, it's getting late.
Hi, Sean.
We're going to get off here soon, y'all. It's been 30 minutes. Let's see. We're going to have to skip that one, Sleep Talker. I know it's a statement, but I don't know what you're talking about, man. I ain't that far. I guess he's talking about one of the networking group specializes in community outreach events. But I don't know what's philanthropy. I don't care how stupid I look right now. What's philanthropy?
I think it's similar to community outreach.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, cool. And E-Man says, kids these days, man, if you're nice, they take advantage. If you're being a boss, they're lacking and sour, right? Well, that's how it is, especially if you started out that way. If you started out like you're your friend and then you're the boss, it's terrible. You got to be the boss right off the bat, You just got to be, but you don't got to be a jerk. Like, there's a fine line between that. But you definitely got to know that, like, hey, look, all this is riding on my shoulders, and, like, we can do this together, or you cannot ride with me. But all this is on my shoulders at the end of the day. So whether everybody leaves and everybody stays, it don't matter. It's still all rocking on my shoulders. At the end of the day, it all trickles down and funnels back to me. And I have to figure out what's going on because there's nobody after me. That's the end of the line. I'm the owner. So you got to remember that, you can't just hand the problems off to your employees. It's not a good idea. Sometimes I do that for the experience, but I'm always willing to at least lend a hand. Like, I'm not going to be like, nope, you got to handle this. Normally I'm like, handle this. And if you have any questions, let me know. I think you got this. And then sometimes I'll say, run it by me before you send it to them. And then I'll kind of fine tune it a little bit just to see where you're at. That could help too. I hope all of this has helped tonight. Melissa, is there anything else you want to close with a golden nugget or anything tonight?
We still need to talk about Christmas lights.
Glad you reminded me. So Tyler, I hope you're still on there, man. I'm so sorry, man. We've been blabbing this whole time. All right, so Christmas lights. Man, I don't recommend it. I did it the first year. I about fell off roofs. Most of the time people order their own Christmas lights. So you hooking up crappy Christmas lights, and if they go out, they call you, and if they're falling, they call you. If you break bulbs, you got to pay for them. It's huge insurance liability. You call and get an insurance quote on Christmas lights. Just call, and you'll figure out real quickly why you don't want to do that. I don't recommend it. I mean, of course you can do it. I say do it to your own house. If you got the crew to do it, you got the equipment to do it and everything, and you got the insurance to do it, do it. But if you don't. if you ain't got no experience doing it, you ain't got no business doing it. Like, period. Look into it. It's a lot that goes into it. Most of these companies that you see out there making a killing already have their own lights. They go out and they put it on there. Not Michael. Big Mike. What's up, Big Mike? I see the logo, man. He said, nope, not worth the headache. I'm telling you, don't do Christmas lights. And I know window cleaners in my area that do Christmas lights, and more power to you. I can't do it. I'll even refer my clients to you, because when I did it my first year, then I was stuck having to do it my second year with some people, and I didn't even want to do it because I'm like, man, I remember how old your lights were, and I had to staple those to your house, and like, no, like, I'm telling you, it's not a good idea, y'all. Like, it's not a good idea. If you don't know how to do it, you got no business out there doing it. Like, don't do it. It's not worth the headache.
You needed a sign. This is it.
Yeah, don't do it. I don't recommend doing it. Hey, if you think that you can go out and you can make this your niche, go do it. But remember, it's seasonal, and you got to pay insurance on that. And so maybe you can cut your insurance on and off for it, but I don't know, man. It's too much of a headache, and people are trippy about how much they want to pay for it and all of that. Let's see. A couple of my clients from gutter cleaning have asked me before. I said no right away, no questions asked. I can get up to your gutters. I can get on your roof. I can do all that. I'm covered for that. But I ain't trying to hang no Christmas lights. I ain't trying. That's electrical, and we don't do electrical. We do water. Yeah. I'm good. I ain't trying to do nothing. Yeah, I ain't trying to do nothing electrical. I'll let somebody else handle that. All right, guys, let's get off here. Melissa, if you could close this out a little bit, tell everybody goodbye, and then we're gonna get off here.
Have a good night, everyone, and have a blessed weekend.
I know you got a good dad joke, though. You got to have a good dad joke.
Oh, man.
Oh, you're not prepared? All right, fine. I'll tell it. All right. Where do dads store their dad jokes? The database. All right, cool. Y'all have a blessed night. We're going to see y'all. Have a good weekend. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. And we'll see y'all next week. I'm going to do my best to have a video prepared for y'all. I got a new camera. I got the new GoPro 360. So that's going to be really cool. And I found my other GoPro, so we're all good on that. So you'll be getting some new footage next week. We will see y'all next week. Y'all have a blessed weekend. Peace out.
Bye.